The plane touches down with a heavy thud, a physical punctuation mark at the end of a story you weren't ready to finish. As the cabin lights flicker on, the magic of the last 10 days begins to evaporate, replaced by the sterile hum of the air conditioning and the shuffling of impatient passengers. This is the moment the transition begins, the shift from the extraordinary back into the ordinary. You feel a peculiar weight in your chest, a cocktail of exhaustion and a sudden, sharp longing for the place you just left. It isn't just tiredness from the flight, it is the onset of the post-vacation blues, a psychological phenomenon that turns our most cherished memories into a source of temporary sorrow. For a week, you were a different version of yourself, more adventurous, more relaxed, perhaps even kinder. Now, as you reach for your carry-on, that version of you feels like it's being left behind on the tarmac. We often talk about the joy of the journey, but we rarely discuss the silent struggle of the return, the internal friction of trying to fit a soul that has just expanded back into the narrow confines of a cubicle and a commute. Today, we explore why this happens, why it hurts, and how we can bridge the gap between the person we are on holiday and the person we are at home.
To understand why the return feels so bleak, we have to look at the chemistry of the brain. During a vacation, your mind is essentially operating on a high-octane fuel of dopamine and serotonin. Every new sight, every exotic meal, and every break from the routine triggers a reward response. You are in a state of constant novelty, which is the brain's favorite stimulant. However, once you step back into your front door, that supply is abruptly cut off. Your brain, which has spent the last week or two acclimating to a high level of stimulation, suddenly finds itself in a sensory vacuum. The familiar smell of your hallway, the sight of the mail on the counter, and the silence of your living room signal to your nervous system that the party is over. This leads to a neurochemical crash. It's similar to a withdrawal process. The lack of novelty causes a dip in mood, making even simple tasks feel Herculean. Your brain is essentially mourning the loss of the happy chemicals it was receiving in abundance. It's not just that you're sad the trip ended, your biology is literally struggling to recalibrate to a lower level of daily excitement. Understanding this can be incredibly liberating. It means your sadness isn't a sign that your real life is bad, but simply that your brain is adjusting to a change in pace.
Psychologists often refer to this as the contrast effect. Our perception of happiness is rarely absolute. It is almost always relative to our most recent experiences. When you are standing on a cliffside in Amalfi or wandering through the neon-lit streets of Tokyo, your baseline for normal shifts upward. When you return home, your brain compares the mundane reality of grocery shopping or answering emails to those peak experiences. In this comparison, your daily life inevitably loses. The contrast is too sharp, the colors of home seem muted, and the stakes of your daily responsibilities feel frustratingly small. This effect is compounded by the lack of agency we often feel at home. On vacation, you are the master of your time. You decide when to eat, where to walk, and what to see. At home, you are once again a cog in a machine, beholden to schedules, bosses, and social obligations. This loss of autonomy is a major driver of the post-travel slump. You aren't just missing the beach, you're missing the version of yourself that had the freedom to choose. The contrast creates a sense of mourning for a lost autonomy that we rarely acknowledge in our professional lives. We find ourselves staring at a spreadsheet and wondering how we could have been drinking wine by a lake just 48 hours prior.
Travel allows us to try on different identities. In a foreign land where nobody knows your name or your job title, you are free to be anyone. You might be more social, more courageous, or more reflective. You shed the armor of your professional persona and the expectations of your family and friends. When the vacation ends, you are forced back into the costume of your everyday life. This can lead to a subtle but profound identity crisis. You might find yourself looking in the mirror and feeling like a stranger to the person who was just hiking through a rainforest or negotiating at a bazaar. The vacation you feels like the real you, while the working you feels like a hollow imitation. We often struggle to integrate these two versions of ourselves. The post-vacation blue is frequently a manifestation of this internal conflict. We wonder why we can't bring that sense of wonder and presence back into our Monday mornings. The sadness comes from the fear that the better version of ourselves only exists in a specific geographic location. We start to resent our surroundings because they don't seem to support the person we want to be. This tension makes the return to work feel not just like a chore, but like an erasure of the growth we achieved while we were away.
One of the most powerful aspects of travel is actually the period before you even leave. Research has shown that the anticipation of a trip often provides more happiness than the trip itself. For months, you have had a North Star, a date on the calendar that represented escape, reward, and excitement. This anticipation acts as a buffer against daily stress. No matter how bad a Tuesday afternoon gets, you can tell yourself, in 3 weeks, I'll be in Paris. When you return, that buffer is gone. You are left with a blank calendar and the realization that the next big thing might be months or even a year away. This sudden absence of a future reward creates a vacuum of motivation. The planning high is a real psychological state, and crashing from it can make the present moment feel stagnant and eternal. Without that light at the end of the tunnel, the routine tasks of life lose their context. You are no longer working towards something, you are just working. This is why many people find themselves compulsively browsing travel websites within days of returning. It's an attempt to regain that sense of forward motion, and to give the brain something to look forward to again, desperately trying to reignite the engine of hope that travel planning provides. Then there is the sheer physical and logistical reality of re-entry. Coming home isn't just a mental shift, it's a mountain of chores. You open your laptop to hundreds of unread emails, each one representing a tiny fire that needs to be put out. Your suitcase sits in the corner like a physical reminder of work yet to be done, mountains of laundry, souvenirs to be put away, and a fridge that is inevitably empty. This logistical pileup creates immediate stress that clashes violently with the relaxation you just worked so hard to achieve. Within hours, the zen you found at a mountain retreat is obliterated by the need to find a matching pair of socks and settle a utility bill. We often make the mistake of jumping back into productivity too quickly. We land on Sunday night and head to the office on Monday morning, giving our bodies and minds zero time to acclimate. This re-entry shock is a primary trigger for the blues. It feels as though the world is conspiring to strip away your peace as quickly as possible. The physical toll of jet lag further weakens our emotional defenses, making us more susceptible to irritability and sadness. We are physically home, but our internal clocks and our emotional states are still hovering somewhere over the Atlantic, stuck in a liminal space between two worlds. Post-vacation blues often trigger a deeper, more existential questioning. When we are removed from our daily grind, we gain a bird's-eye view of our lives. We start to ask, is this really how I want to spend 40 hours a week? Or why is my daily life so devoid of the beauty I just saw? Travel acts as a mirror, reflecting the gaps in our satisfaction. When we return, those gaps feel wider than ever. The routine that felt fine before we left now feels restrictive or even soul-crushing. This existential echo is perhaps the most difficult part of the return. It isn't just about the vacation ending, it's about the realization that our normal life might need a fundamental change. We feel a sense of mourning for the life we could have, a life of movement, curiosity, and presence. While this can be painful, it is also a vital source of information. The blues are telling you what you value. If you missed the slow mornings of your trip, perhaps your current life is too rushed. If you missed the connection with strangers, perhaps you were feeling isolated. Instead of dismissing the sadness, we can view it as a diagnostic tool, a signal from the heart that some elements of our vacation self need to be integrated into our everyday self to make life sustainable.
The digital age has made the post-vacation slump even harder to navigate. Just as you're trying to settle back into your cubicle, your social media feed is flooded with the highlight reels of others who are just beginning their journeys. You see the saturated blues of the Caribbean or the lush greens of the Swiss Alps, and suddenly your own life feels even more gray by comparison. This upward social comparison is a thief of joy. We forget that our own photos looked just as magical to others only days ago. Furthermore, there is the pressure to perform your vacation. The act of editing photos and posting stories can distance us from the actual experience, turning a personal memory into a commodity for external validation. When the likes stop coming in, the high of the trip officially ends. We find ourselves trapped in a cycle of looking back at our own digital memories, which only reinforces the sense of loss. We aren't just living in the present, we are living in a digital ghost of the past. To combat this, it's often helpful to take a digital detox upon return. By stepping away from the highlight reels of others, we can focus on grounding ourselves in our own reality, however unphotogenic it may currently seem.
It is important to give yourself permission to feel this way. Society often treats post-vacation blues as a first-world problem or something to be laughed off, but the transition is a real emotional process. You are mourning the end of an experience that likely cost you significant time, money, and emotional energy. It is okay to be sad. It is okay to feel out of place in your own home for a few days. By validating the feeling, you take away its power to overwhelm you. Think of it as emotional jet lag. Just as your body needs time to adjust to a new time zone, your heart needs time to adjust to a new emotional zone. We often try to fight the sadness by immediately distracting ourselves, but this only delays the inevitable. Instead, try to sit with the feeling. Acknowledge that the trip was wonderful and that it's natural to miss it. This acceptance allows the blues to pass through you more quickly. You are not failing at real life because you miss your vacation. You are simply a human being who appreciates beauty and freedom. Gentleness is the key during this first week back. Treat yourself with the same kindness you would offer a friend who is going through a period of change, because that is exactly what you are doing. How do we actually fix this? There are tactical ways to ease the descent. One of the most effective strategies is the buffer day. Instead of returning on a Sunday night and working Monday morning, try to return on a Saturday. This gives you a full day to unpack, grocery shop, and simply exist in your home without the pressure of performance. It bridges the gap between the wild and the domestic. Another technique is to bring a sensory element of your trip home with you. Maybe it's a specific coffee bean you discovered in Italy, or a playlist of songs you heard in a local market. These sensory anchors allow you to microdose the feeling of the vacation within your daily routine. Additionally, try to avoid making major life decisions in the first week back. Your perspective is currently skewed by the contrast effect. While you might feel like quitting your job on Tuesday, wait until the blues have faded to see if that desire is a deep truth or just a temporary reaction to the stress of unread emails. Small rituals, like a walk in a local park that reminds you of a trail you hiked, can help maintain the spirit of exploration without needing a passport. The ultimate goal isn't just to get over the vacation, but to integrate it. A successful trip should change you, even if only in small ways. Ask yourself, what specifically made me happy on this trip? If it was the lack of a phone, can you implement a no-phone rule for 2 hours every evening? If it was the walking, can you find a new route to work? If it was the curiosity, can you visit a local museum or try a new cuisine in your own city? By identifying the core components of your vacation joy, you can begin to sprinkle them into your everyday life. This turns the vacation from an escape into an investment in your daily well-being. We often view travel and home as two separate silos, but the most fulfilled travelers are those who learn to blur the lines.
You don't have to be in a different country to be a traveler. Being a traveler is a state of mind, one of openness, presence, and wonder. When you start to apply that mindset to your own neighborhood, the post-vacation blues begin to dissolve, replaced by a renewed appreciation for the world exactly where you are. You bring the horizon home with you, and in doing so, you make your real life a place you don't feel the constant need to escape from.
As the days pass, the sharp edge of the blues will inevitably soften. The emails will be answered, the laundry will be put away, and the rhythm of your home will become comfortable again. But don't let the memory of the feeling fade entirely. The post-vacation blues is a testament to your capacity for wonder. It is proof that you are capable of stepping outside your comfort zone and connecting with the vast, beautiful world. It is a reminder that life is meant to be lived deeply, not just endured. So the next time you feel that heavy thud of the plane landing or that first day back at the office gloom, smile at it. It means you've had an experience worth missing. It means you are alive to the possibilities of the world. Take a deep breath, brew that foreign coffee, and remember, the world is still out there. And more importantly, the version of you that explored it is still right here. You are the architect of your own experience, and while the trip may be over, the journey of integration has just begun. Welcome home, not to the same life you left, but to a life that is now a little bit larger, a little bit richer, and waiting for your next move. Where will you go next? Not just in the world, but in your own soul.